Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Backwoods Tech. My name is Joe, and the reason why I'm starting this channel is because it seems like everything has kind of reached critical mass with gear. Everybody's teaching you how to use gear, but nobody's really teaching you how to make your own gear. And living a prepared lifestyle, I've seen a lot of the channels that are out there, and they all seem like they want to sell you something. And rather than trying to sell you a knife, I'd much rather teach you how to make a knife. So anyway, this is kind of like the purpose of why I'm starting this channel. Is I'd much rather teach people how to make stuff than teach them to be reliant on gear. You know what, let's go out in the shop and make a knife right now. All right, for the blade itself, for the no temper knife, I'm using a piece of industrial bandsaw blade. It's about 3/4 of an inch wide, and I'm going to leave the teeth across the top of it. And if you decide to use or leave the teeth on the knife, make sure that they're facing away from you, so that when you flip the knife over and you want to utilize those teeth, they're pointing in the correct direction. Next, I've got just a piece of wood I had laying around. I'm going to use that to make my scales with. Then, like I said, I've got just a hacksaw, a square, a carpenter saw, and some files. Now, I'm kind of on the fence about using epoxy, because I know this is supposed to be kind of a off-grid kind of thing, but I think that's what I'm going to go with, because if you're like me, you always have a ton of JB Weld on hand, and you know, it's so handy. So anyway, let's get started assembling the knife. All right, so I got my blade marked kind of how I want it, and now I'm going to put it in a vise, which it would really be helpful if my vise was mounted to the table, but I've got so many different things that I use this table for that I really just need to build me a shop and be done with it. And hopefully one day I'll get to that point. All right, so I got it mounted in my vise at an angle, and I'm going to use a hacksaw to kind of get it started right here to get my shape, so I won't have to do quite as much filing. And like I said, I'm not really going to go all the way through it. I'm just going to kind of get it to the point where I can break it off. All right, so using the hacksaw, like I said, I just more or less just kind of scored it and then broke it off, so I wouldn't have quite as much to file when I start doing the final shape of the tip of the knife. So now I'm going to start trying to get the shape of the point, so to speak, with a file. And like I said, this is going to be kind of loud, so I'm not going to go through the whole spiel of it. So you can see it's kind of loud. So it's kind of starting to take shape a little bit. Now, as you can see, that's about the kind of shape that I'm going for. I really don't want a long point on this due to the thinness of this blade. And this particular knife isn't really a defensive knife, so to speak. It's more of a utilitarian type knife. So now that I've got that done, I'm going to start working on the edge. All right, so now I'm going to start working on the edge of the blade now that I've got it about where I want it. And like I said, I'm just going to put it in the vise and give myself a little bit extra on that end, so it looks like it'll, you know, kind of fit my hand. And I'm going to start filing on it to get the edge. All right, so here is the knife itself, and like I said, it's, you know, pretty dang sharp for being what it is. I cleaned up just the blade a little bit, and now I'm going to take and cut me some scales, and then I'm going to epoxy the scales on here and then put it in the vise, and we'll let it sit for a few minutes. All right, so I got 2 scales that I cut out of some scrap hardwood plywood that I had, and like I said, that's going to be my handles before I start, you know, kind of finish working them. All right, so I'm going to mix up some JB Weld, and then I'm going to glue the handles on there, or scales, whichever one you prefer to call them.
Kind of like do about equal parts, so to speak. And like I said, I'm going to kind of put a lot on there so that when it oozes out and I kind of file the handles down on it, it'll kind of even out, so to speak. Alright, so I'm just going to put the blade in there like that. That's about where I want it. I'm going to put a little JB weld on the other side. There we go. Now I'm just going to put it in the vise and let it sit overnight. Alright, so I let this sit overnight to make sure that the JB weld had cured all the way through. Now I'm going to start shaping the handle of the knife. Alright, so I'm just going to use a planer or try to kind of round it off a little bit. Alright, got that side done. Like I said, it's working pretty good. Got a nice definitive line in there now. We'll start working on the bottom. Alright, now the bottom's starting to come together. I'll do a little bit off the sides, trying to round it off a little bit. As you can see, I got my vise secured now. Like I said, I just got a clamp to put on there to kind of hold it in place. It does seem to work a little bit better than chasing it around. But at least that way there I can take it off when I need to. Yeah, we're getting somewhere now. So it's getting there pretty good. I'm liking this. May keep this one instead of using my other one that I have. That's looking pretty good. I think now I'm just going to finish it off with some sandpaper. We'll start off with a rough grit, and then I'll go to a finer grit. Alright, so I believe that's smooth enough. Probably going to take a little off the back of it to kind of get rid of some of that JB weld, round off the edges there. There we go, I believe that'll work. Now, I'm going to figure out what kind of stain I'm going to use. I've got a bunch of different stains laying around. I think I'll go with the red chestnut. Alright, instead of the red chestnut, I decided to go just with some leather dye that I had. There I can just kind of dunk it in there, so to speak, and then wipe it off. Theoretically, anyway. Yeah. Now, like I said, I thought I was going to be able just to dunk it in there, but that's a new bottle, so I'm just going to kind of daub it on there a little bit and let it sit. With the day being Valentine's Day, I'm trying not to get my hands too terribly dirty, so I can go in there and cook some dinner for the missus. And like I said, there ain't nothing wrong with cooking dinner for your wife, which, like I said, I do it all the time, and I don't mind doing it, because she is a sweetheart to me. I love her with all my life. Alright, so here is our no temper knife. And like I said, it turned out pretty good, considering I didn't really have a plan for the scales and all that. And aside from the drying time, it took me probably 20 minutes to make this knife. Alright, so this is what I was talking about as far as using the back side of the knife. Like I said, you know, it cuts really good. And then if you, like I said, you want to do a figure 4 style trap knife, like I said, put a really sharp edge on it like that, and voila. See, now you can do like figure 4 traps with it, things of that nature. And it is, again, a utilitarian type knife. See, rather than having to beat and hack and everything else on a knife, because of the aggressiveness of the teeth on wood, because like I said, this particular blade is meant for cutting metal. So it's just a little bitty short blade too. This, see, there you go. Voila. So anyway, there is your no temper knife, and like I said, it turned out pretty good considering I didn't really have a plan for the scales. And I have carried a knife like this for, you know, years without any problems, especially like out in the garden, out in the field, whatever I'm doing. And like I said, the blade holds up really good. So there you go, there's your no temper knife. All right, so that's my take on a no temper knife. And down the road I will do a more elaborate one. I think I've got one hanging up back here somewhere that I made out of a saw blade. Like I said, that's, you know, a project for another time, but that was just kind of a down and dirty cheap knife that will last you for a long time and won't cost you $200 or $300. And like I said, again, that is the premise of my channel, and why I'm starting this channel is to teach people how to make your own gear rather than buy your own gear. So that way there you can call it custom or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, we'll see y'all next time.